Good evening, board and community.
Good evening.
Thanks, Tom. I want to start by thanking the superintendent and her team. We got together this week, it seemed like last week, a couple days ago, to talk about our mid-year progress as a district as a whole and what we're going to do collectively to move forward. It was a very, very, very spirited conversation, and for those who question our collaboration, I can tell you that we've met several times over the last few months to align our resources to learn from one another. And it's a true blessing to have a talented group of cabinet members and a superintendent who's willing to share, push, and challenge one another as we all seek a common goal, and that's improving the lives of our students. So thank you, Barb, and your team, and the board. I want to just assure you that we are working quickly and collaboratively to help all kids in RCSD. But tonight's board meeting update is to address some things that have happened over the last month and to also predict some things that are going to happen in the future. So a few things that we are proud of. I always start with the positive. That's how I live my life. And we had a great opportunity due to a community member to fund all of our 6th and 7th graders to attend the movie Hidden Figures. And we aligned it purposefully with our school mission statement, which is to be tenacious, to think purposefully, and to advocate for self and others. And one of the greatest takeaways from that experience is that our students truly don't understand their history. And they had many, many questions about segregation and about different black leaders. And the Knowledge Bowl that we just had and what we celebrate tomorrow with Black Lives Matter, it's critical for our students to know where they come from and how it impacts where they're going. And so there's a renewed focus that we have now on ensuring that our students get a solid foundation in cultural topics in 6th and 7th grade, because they just don't get it until 8th grade as part of U.S. history curriculum. So it's critical, and it was eye-opening for me to experience that firsthand, the gap in information that our students have. And it actually inspired us to change our Black History Month celebration today to make sure there was a cultural connection, and I'm going to share a little bit of that at the end of this presentation. Also, a point of pride is our Nassau project, which I've talked about several times in the last few months. There's a little update. It is now receiving international coverage for the district, and so WXXI will be airing it within the next month on their international coverage, and I'll make sure that the board is fully aware when that takes place. We'll get like a couple days notice or a week's notice. But I'm really proud of Mary Courtney, our teacher there, and all the students who participated in this great event. And to see our CSD be on the international map is extremely important. And it's a true testament to the support of the board and to the larger community as a whole. And now I want to get into some of our data. And there's a lot of slides here, a lot of information, but I wanted to give you things to look at when I'm gone so you can have follow-up questions, but also to have it out there for the community. And so there's a lot of numbers on these slides. I'm not going to go through everything. But what's important is on the left column, you see the 2012 cohort. And when we talked about this time last year, when we were predicting our graduation rates, I showed this slide, and there was a lot of conversation about getting to a better desired state. I'm showing this slide because I'm very, very, very proud of our data team at East in being able to predict the graduation rate for August within 5 percentage points. That's very difficult to do. And they dug through student-by-student data, worked with teachers, and that number in the middle of the left column, that 36.94%, became 40 point some change percent for August. And so I'm really proud of the data team at East for digging through the data to make sure we account for every single student. And if we continue to do that for next year, the chart on the right, our graduation rate will fall somewhere between 39.8% and 59.3%. And that's incredible, remembering that we began this place last year at 19%. So I want to remind the board of that and the community. The other data points on that slide that are extremely important are at the bottom. That this time last year at East, 37% of the students are already dropped out of high school. And we have 30%, 29.4% who dropped out so far this year. But what's really important is the next slide, where you see the cohort dropout rate slowly moving in the right direction. Meaning that we have not lost kids that are sophomores, and we definitely haven't lost many kids who are freshmen. There are a couple kids who left as freshmen. They were already 17 years old, which meant they were very, very old in 8th grade. And we know about each of those cases. So the graduation rate is also dependent upon the dropout rate, which is also dependent upon credit accrual. So when the community asks about graduation rate, we have to have a holistic conversation about the leading and lagging indicators. One of the, in this next slide here is just to kind of to break it down even further, to give you more detail about the type of dropouts. If they dropped out for multiple times, if they left school, if they've graduated early, some have graduated early, and then also the kids who are still enrolled. So there's a lot of data there. I'm not going to beat you over the head with data. And the next two slides is just to show you how we track students in the 2013 cohort, that's this year's seniors, and looking at the number of credits obtained, and then tracking it to the regions, and then eventually down to the actual courses themselves. There is a huge issue throughout, not just Rochester City, but throughout the state. There are certain exams that our students are struggling to pass, global studies being one of them, and sometimes English, surprisingly. And it's an area of focus. There are some CDOS provisions that allow us to replace the global studies exam, so you'll see that probably materializing itself over the next couple of years as kids move towards the CDOS pathway. But global is essential in the state. I recently met with Lieutenant Governor Hochul and shared with her that global studies is a huge barrier, not just in Rochester, but throughout Monroe County and the rest of the state. It's not an exam that's required in other states. It's one that's required in New York State, and our students really struggle in that exam, particularly our bilingual students. They struggle with the content and some of the interpretation of that work. And the next few slides is just the same process of looking at the 14 cohort, which are this year's juniors. And so you have an idea of what those students are up to in terms of their projection towards graduation. We're also tracking the sophomores, the 2015 cohort, and then we get to the data, the behavior data. I was asked recently by Commissioner Elliott at the PAC meeting about the behavior at East and the climate and culture and its impact on academics. And that was it was a great question because she clearly understands that there is a correlation between the two. You can't have a chaotic school and have students expected to graduate, and you can't have, so you have to be able to address the culture and climate and accountability measures for students themselves and staff, at the same time reworking curriculum instruction and assessment. This chart here shows that the behavior is slowly moving in the right direction, where kids are more engaged in school and aren't making poor choices. This slide is the one that I'm probably most proud of, which is our minor altercation trends. When you look at school suspension as an indicator of success, it can be misleading because you can remove a kid from a classroom setting and not suspend them. It doesn't account for time out of instruction. Hard data like altercations, either you fight or you don't, right? So you can track those numbers. So if you look at the far right, you'll see two bars. The first set of bars indicate total fights in 2014-15, total fights in 2015, and total fights 2016. The bar next to that shows you the year-to-date. So this time, 2 years ago, there were 142 fights recorded at East. Last year at this time, there were 72. To date, there are 56. 56 too many, mind you. But there are kids who are less kids who are engaging in physical contact, which means they're spending more time in class. It's a safer environment. But the chart on the left is something that was most surprising to me, and I'm very pleased with, particularly the chart that has a 91% in the middle bar. Those are a number of kids who have never this year had a physical altercation. So more than 91% of our students are making the right decisions daily. And then the second bar would be the students who got into fights one time, and then the kids who are multiple offenders. And those numbers really tell the true story of a school. When students come every day to make the right decisions, they know they're being held accountable for making the right decisions, but more importantly, they're being celebrated for making the right decisions. And I'm very proud to say that our students are making those decisions daily. Next, I want to move to the budget update. I want to just this is for the community and the board, because there'll be a lot of resolutions coming through the next few months. In December, as part of Receiver, we received rollover funds, funds that were unused last year, as well as new funds that the state gave us as set-asides. I believe every receivership school received some type of funding. These are the categories that we chose to use them. These funds have to be used by July 1st. And so we essentially put most of the money into professional development and support, and as well as minor renovations. So there are some equipment needs for some of our academic settings, like we have mountain bike unit and rock wall, and getting the gym repaired where the baskets are, to improve the lighting in some of those areas because it's very dark. And I want to thank Mike Schmidt and Tom Casa for really being supportive and helping us identify the essential needs. We have worked collaboratively with that department to identify things that we can use receivership monies for, so it's not a burden on the districts 3, 4, 5 years from now. And so there's a lot of collaboration happening throughout the district to maximize the funds that we're getting, and so we're not wasting them. And so when you see resolutions over the next couple months, I just want to be clear that these are not, some of these resolutions are new, but the funding is due in part to the state giving us additional dollars. And we took some stuff we would have done last year and just moved it forward. So we would have we'll have more funds next year. And then last but certainly not least, if you're at East, I invite you to come to our new bookstore. This is a bookstore that is led by our students. At East, we've adopted the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teams, Covey's work. And in his work, he encourages the school to have students take leadership roles in the school. And so they run this. There's a CFO, there's a COO established. The students voted them in. They run everything. And they have done an incredible job. In fact, they also run all of our assemblies. They plan it, they speak. The only thing the adult does is open and close it. The kids do everything in the middle. They quiet the crowd, they do everything. And we had our first major meeting today, and that was our Black History Month celebration. And I have to tell you that in all my years of education, I've had many highs and many, 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 many lows. Today was probably the best day I've ever had in education. To watch our students, all 1,300 of them, in an auditorium together, watching students lead an event was absolutely incredible. And I would say that at some points there wasn't a dry eye in the house. Now, I didn't cry, but there was some wind that came from the left. But I'm telling you, it was incredible. There was a young lady named Suli. If you've ever been in the East, you've seen her. She stands about this tall. She has some developmental delays, and she's blind. And she's in our 12-1-4 program. And she today played a piano solo for about 25, 30 seconds. And it's on, if you go to Twitter at East EPO, you'll see it, and a bunch of other videos. She played, and I was sitting in the front row in front of her, and I heard this loud noise from behind. I turned around. Every single student was on their feet, cheering and clapping and encouraging her. And there are very few days when you go home and you're just overwhelmed with excitement. Today was one of those days, and I have to make sure that we remember as educators that we have a lot of political influences and a lot of individuals who doubt what we do, but our kids are reaping the benefits of our actions. And that goes for every school in RCSD, and I see it everywhere that I go. So I couldn't take you to the Black History Month celebration. There's a 45-second clip that shows you a little bit of what our students have done, what they did today. And this is not part of our presentation, but after today, I called folks and said, can you just give the board like 45 seconds of what happened today? And so I haven't seen this yet, so let's see what it is. Lower school, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. So I honestly think that this is why the culture has changed. Our students have really embraced what we're trying to offer them, and now they're directing that change. And so I really, again, overwhelmed, overjoyed. Today was a beautiful day. I want to thank Lita Williams, one of our teachers who put this together. She is a pioneer, she's a legend in the district, and she put her heart, sweat, and tears in ensuring that we keep Black history forward. And I really appreciate that. I also want to introduce Carlene Pierce, who is is working with us as a school business official. She has a lot of experience. She's on the board packet today, and already she has transformed some of our systems and how we monitor budget. And again, I want to thank Everton and his crew for working with her and catching her up quickly in all the different systems that we have here to ensure that we are accounting for every single dollar and returning as much as we can back to the students at East and the rest of the district. So thank you.
Any questions for Superintendent Nelms?
Yeah, Mr. President.
Yeah.
What I don't see on your budget update is any line item for students. This seems to reflect adults for the most part. If this is money that we don't want to roll back, couldn't some of this funding be allocated for our students in some way?
So it can't be directly for them. It's for specific reasons. Professional learning, development, minor repairs. There's like 4 or 5 other categories. But what it has allowed me to do, Commissioner Elliott, is to use funding we would have used for these things through receivership and use our school funding to do those things. So I'm able to move the dollars once this FS10 is approved by the state and give more of those things to the students. Also, we have been actively getting money from local foundations to provide additional opportunities for kids. So all the funding that we give for our students doesn't come from the district, it also comes from the community. So like someone paid for the trip to the movies to see Hidden Figures. We bought kids these t-shirts for those who participated in the auditorium today. Someone donated $25,000 to open up the Rice Kitchen in Village Gate for our culinary students to have full-time jobs, part-time jobs. So it's a combination of moving funds that could be covered by grants and freeing up other funds for students, as well as like beating the grounds for foundations to support students in other ways as well. So these particular funds have to be earmarked for specific purposes, which do not include direct student impact. However, I would say fixing the auditorium, and we have a new sound system, and fixing the gymnasium and providing curricular materials and supplies for kids. So there will be more books ordered for kids and technology for kids. So they'll get it from that angle, and then other funds will be used to do more community-based opportunities.
All right, and so you said you opened up a bookstore.
Mm-hmm.
In that bookstore, does it contain books about African and African American history that the students can purchase?
Not yet. So we have, it's mostly t-shirts and pencils and more East High stuff.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you, we spent a lot of money last year in books and continue to spend a lot of money this year in books to have classroom libraries. And we started with all our literacy classes having culturally relevant materials. We called out to Washington, D.C., and saw what they were using because they were a model district for having this type of culturally rich text. And the books they ordered, we ordered last year for our students. So if you go into any of our literacy classrooms, there are classroom sets, the Buford series and Bluford series and others, Sharon Flake, that are all culturally relevant texts.
All right. And as you were talking about the movie Hidden Figures, I just finished watching 13th on
absolutely.
Netflix.
Yep.
I think that we need to show that
Absolutely.
movie in every school.
Completely agree.
It's tough to watch,
Yep.
but it is a movie that every one of our students, particularly our high school students, need to watch. So
And I'm happy you said that. So we started watching that, and this is an interesting situation. We started watching that in my family group. That's the time we meet with our 10 students every day. And the kids were completely turned off to it, like at first. And so we had to do a much more reteaching because honestly, I don't think they saw it as a direct impact on them until we chunked it in phases and talked about it. And then the students got it. And in our senior and junior level courses, they're reading the New Jim Crow, Michelle Alexander's book, which is very similar to that topic. And so we're building layers of support for the kids to understand the world that they're entering, or actually the world that they're living in. And the New Jim Crow is a book I think should be standard reading for all high school kids too. And that's an incredible book, and the 13th was amazing. So it was only my 10 students. Other folks used that movie, but it made us think about how do we do this more broadly. First, train the teachers to be able to have that conversation and dialogue, and then have it so that kids who are asking thoughtful questions aren't left with unclear. And so that's part of the conversation too. But some of those fundings for curriculum is doing just that, getting teachers to understand the importance of culturally relevant material and how to facilitate conversations with students so that they don't reinforce stereotypes. It can also push their thinking forward. I mean, it is incredible. And I would love for anybody on the board in the community who has an insight like the 13th to come in and do a lecture or talk. We would love to have that happen. We can set that up.
So just curious, can you put your finger on what it was that the kids weren't connecting to?
Well,
with
I
13?
this is just my own, I don't think Black history is taught every single year. So if you got it in 3rd grade, and if you had a teacher, and I don't know this, so please don't, I hope I'm not offending anyone, but if they get it from a teacher who understands it, several years and those kids got it. But it's possible that curriculum-wise, you may get it in elementary, and then you don't get it again until 8th grade when it's actually in the curriculum itself. If you happen to have a thoughtful teacher or a teacher who's socially conscious, then you get it all the time. So by design, I don't think every student gets it. And I could be completely wrong on that, and I'm not hoping I'm making any work for anybody else. But that was my observation, is that our students at East, those kids who are 6th and 7th graders, didn't demonstrate the capacity that I had as a middle schooler. Now, granted, I was taught by people who were first-generation civil rights activists, and so perhaps it was part of their personal narrative that they taught it. And our kids are 3 or 4 generations removed from those people who were directly involved in civil rights, and it shows. And in fact, I asked our family group students to identify 5 Black leaders who are socially conscious, and they couldn't name one. And when I thought about why that is, it's because there aren't many that are out there and in the forefront. Like when you heard Dr. King's voice, you stopped in a room and you listened. When you heard X's voice, you stopped in a room and you listened. I don't think there's a prominent voice in the Black community that the kids relate to, that when they talk, they stop and listen. And that's, it's disheartening. And I didn't realize we were that far removed. I was so far removed from them, and we got to do better. And I got to do better as a leader to make sure that happens at East.
Well, I have to somewhat disagree with that just because of my experience that I had this week. I was over at Freddie Thomas and spoke with the Montessori kids over there. They were 4th graders and 5th graders. And I tell you, I didn't dumb it down for lack of a better language. And they got it. I was so impressed. And you know, I mean, these little kids are sitting up, you know, on the floor. I'm really tall. And, they weren't intimidated, and they wanted me to come back. Yeah. So they're getting it from the school over there, and they're also getting it home, and I could tell that they're getting it both places. Some of them did see Hidden Fingers. There is one little kid was telling me there was something that called Pinkster for Sunday.
Oh, right.
See, I didn't even know that, right? So they were teaching me that as well. So I guess it's about exposure and perhaps continuing to expose them.
Like I said,
That's going to be helpful.
Yeah, I just said I'll own it. We got to do better. I mean, I think it was just, for me, it was disheartening. I just grew up in an environment where that was a central conversation all the time, in my home, in my community, and also in school. And I just wonder how much of that triangulation is happening. But I think it also provides a great opportunity for us as a collective community.
Commissioner Powell?
Mr. Nelms, this isn't directly tied to anything in your presentation, but at the winter graduation, I spoke with one of the faculty, I'm almost certain it was with East, who indicated that two students who were pregnant had requested transfers to Young Mothers Program, both denied. And I wonder if being an EPO is presenting a barrier for these dual enrollments, that the young mothers would historically continue to be enrolled in their home school and then and be enrolled in the Young Mothers Program at the same time. Is that a barrier for because you're an EPO school?
No, I'm not aware of those 2 cases. I'll look into it, but I know that we have students in district programs. We're still part of the district. And there are district kids who take advantage of the Big East program. So not to my knowledge, there's no precedent set for our students not participating. I was just talking to Abel a little before the meeting about getting students into our TLI program who have an interest in teaching. So there's not, I would say that Barb and her staff have been really open. And when we've had situations where it's been a rub, we've resolved that. quickly. So I'm not aware of any barriers at place, and I haven't experienced that personally. It's kid-by-kid basis. I'll have to look into that and see if that's true, and if it's true, what happened.
And I apologize in advance if I identified the wrong school. I did want to, at some point tonight, raise the issue that, I can't even fathom why we would turn an expectant mother away from the Young Mothers Program. Can't even, regardless of where they come from. So I wanted to raise that issue to whoever's listening.
Yeah, I heard about two from Arts Integrated Arts.
Integrated Arts.
So it might have been that one,
Okay,
not
yeah.
about East, yeah.
But I just want to clarify, there has been complete collaboration, and we share programs, and we are in constant communication.
And Mr. President, I just want to say that Dr. Nelms said, and I want to see him crying when you make this, that he could make some macaroni and cheese. Now, that's what he said. That's what he said. See, now, I don't believe all of that, but that's what he said. So
I have to bring a pan.
Yeah.
You know,
That's what I'm
I don't want to put y'all to
See,
sleep.
That's what he said, that he could make some macaroni and cheese.
You're not talking about no Kraft macaroni and cheese.
Come on.
Come on.
Listen,
That's what I think you're
Van,
talking about.
I have seen your cooking on Facebook, so you don't have no room to talk.
Well, see, now I was just going to give you a compliment. But you know what?
So bring it in, you know,
right.
what he can do.
I can make some arroz con pollo too, Jose.
Uh-oh. All right, well, before you go,
All right, thank
I did want to say, I noticed on social media, one of your administrators, and I should know her name, but she was apparently up late at night at the school painting Eagle's Nest sign, which is the name of your store,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Who is that, sorry?
That is Shalana Garfield.
Shalana
She
Garfield.
is a true gem. Like, you find those energetic, I can say young now, I'm getting old, those young, energetic administrators, that's her. I mean,
Yep.
she puts in work, and around the clock, to the point where I have to tell her, go home.
Yeah.
You know, and she leads our lighthouse in the lower school, and she's done an incredible job. She's a RCSD graduate.
Yep.
Her life story is incredible. She's now getting her doctorate, and she works around the clock. She's an up-and-coming star. She will be in this field for a long time.
We have, of course, lots of teachers and administrators and sentries and non-teaching professionals in our district that are like that, but I saw that, and I didn't want to even do it on Facebook. I want to do it in a very public way. You tell her on behalf of the board, thank you very much, because she was working, and that was part of the opening of the store, right?
Yes, it was, yep.
Yep, and I happened to see the store, I think, on the Twitter page
Yep,
or something
yep,
like that, in the video,
Yep.
and you're right, they had the young lady who was the manager. She said, I'm the one in charge.
I'm the CFO, she
Yeah,
said.
she did. It's very powerful. So the other thing I wanted to say is, when the board created this EPO at East High School with the U of R, we did it to create an incubator of success, if you will. And we do see evidence that you're sharing of practices with the district and vice versa.
Yep.
We're very proud of that and the effort. And I just want to say on a personal note, it's going to sound very corny, but this is what my heart is moving to say. You said repeatedly how proud you were of your students and your staff. I want to tell you, and I haven't canvassed the board on this, but I think I would be unanimously supporting this. I am proud of you. You have done a good job. You left the district. You came back when you didn't have to. And you have led with grace and dignity. And when you talk about Black History Month and, Black Lives Matter, you are a good, and I mean this from the heart, you are a good example of what it means to contribute back to the community. So I want to tell you, we are proud of you.
Thank you.
And thank you very much.
I'll see you tomorrow, Van. Thanks.
And by the way, if you do get anywhere close to 59%, we will be very, very proud of you. So
We'll get you some macaroni and cheese.
we'll make you some macaroni and cheese.